Aisha had arrived in Crestwood High with the quiet confidence of someone who didn't need to prove anything to anyone, yet the moment she stepped inside the noisy hallways, whispers followed her like shadows clinging to her back. No one knew that she had spent half her life in remote mountain dojos, training under a legendary martial arts grandmaster who forged fighters the world feared, nor that she carried scars from battles most adults couldn't imagine surviving. To everyone here, she was just the new girl, calm, collected, and mysterious, qualities that made her instantly interesting and, to the wrong people, instantly threatening. Among the wrong people stood Veronica Hale, a self-proclaimed queen bee with a cruelty polished by years of being bowed to by insecure followers. Veronica's eyes narrowed the moment she saw Aisha. It wasn't jealousy of beauty or popularity, it was the pure, primal irritation of a bully sensing someone they couldn't control. Within hours, shallow rumors spread like wildfire. The new girl was weird, cold, arrogant. Aisha ignored them with her usual zen-like silence, but to Veronica, being ignored was a personal insult. Her petty resentment hardened into a dangerous obsession. Meanwhile, Aisha spent her break periods in the far corner of the school garden, breathing deeply, grounding herself, remembering her master's words, "Peace is your first weapon, strength is your last." But peace wasn't something Crestwood High allowed her to keep for long. On the third day, Veronica and her crew cornered Aisha near the lockers with snide smirks and venom in their voices, trying every insult imaginable, pushing her shoulder, mocking her quiet nature, even trying to snatch her bag. Aisha didn't fight back, not because she was weak, but because she was disciplined beyond the bully's understanding. Her stillness only pushed Veronica further into rage. "You think you're better than me?" she snarled. Aisha simply walked away, which only sealed her fate in Veronica's eyes. That afternoon, as rain clouds swallowed the sky, Aisha walked to the school parking lot unaware that Veronica's crew, 3 boys and 2 girls, had already decided tonight was the night they would teach her a lesson. They ambushed her, knocking her unconscious with a blow to the back of the head before she could even register the attack. When Aisha woke, she felt the suffocating smell of gasoline before she opened her eyes. Her hands were tied behind her with rough rope, her ankles bound, her body wedged inside her own car like a discarded object. Laughter echoed outside the vehicle as the bullies splashed fuel across the hood and windshield, their faces lit with the twisted thrill of going too far but being too foolish to realize it. Veronica's voice rose above the others. "Let's see how calm she is now." Aisha's heartbeat remained steady, her training kicking in breath control, situational focus, awareness. Through the windshield, she saw Veronica strike a match, the tiny flame reflected in her predator-like smile. But as the first flicker fell onto the gasoline trails, Aisha exhaled slowly and snapped her wrist hard against the metal frame, dislocating her thumb painful, but the only way to slip out of the rope. Within seconds, her wrists were free. The flame ignited the ground around the car, heat building rapidly, but Aisha's mind moved faster. She used her legs to kick the back door with precise force. The metal frame groaned but didn't open, yet the second kick blasted it outward just as flames licked up the sides of the car. The bully shrieked as Aisha crawled out of the smoking vehicle like a shadow reborn from fire, her hair wild, her eyes blazing not with anger but with controlled, terrifying clarity. The bullies froze, rooted in disbelief. Aisha stood tall as the fire roared behind her, her silhouette framed like a warrior emerging from a battlefield. Veronica stepped back, fear draining the arrogance from her face. What are you?" she stuttered. Aisha walked forward, each step slow, deliberate, powerful. "I warned you," she said calmly, "never mistake silence for weakness." And in that moment, the bullies realized they hadn't just attacked a quiet new student, they had awakened a legendary fighter who had survived far worse than their pathetic cruelty. But they had no idea that their true punishment was only just beginning. The sirens had not yet begun to howl, the night was still young, and the flames behind Aisha cast giant moving shadows on the pavement, shadows that made the bullies tremble as though monsters were rising from the darkness. Veronica stumbled backward, losing balance as Aisha approached with the steady grace of someone who had been trained to confront danger without blinking. "You tried to kill me," Aisha said, her voice low yet echoing across the empty lot, each word slicing through the air sharper than steel. The bullies were trapped, fear paralyzed them, but pride kept them from running. Aisha didn't strike them, instead, she circled them like a lion assessing prey, her footsteps silent, her breathing controlled, her aura overpowering. "Do you know what my master taught me?" she continued. "A fighter's greatest strength is not in breaking bones, but in breaking the cycle of violence." The bullies exchanged confused glances, they expected screams, chaos, an explosion of rage, not the deadly calm that made their skin crawl. But when Veronica tried to regain control, barking orders at her crew, Aisha moved. In a blur, she closed the distance and stopped inches from Veronica's face, her eyes piercing with the cold calm of a warrior who didn't need to prove her strength. "You don't lead them," Aisha whispered. "You intimidate them. That makes you weak." Veronica's breath hitched, her false confidence shattered. Suddenly, the boys lunged in a panic, 3 of them rushing Aisha from different angles in a desperate attempt to overpower her. But she wasn't just trained, she was legendary. She shifted her weight, redirecting their attacks with effortless precision. A simple pivot sent one boy flying into the gravel, another tripped over his own momentum when she sidestepped, and the third froze mid-attack when Aisha locked his wrist and dropped him to the ground without even breaking his skin. The girls stood speechless, their mouths open, their bodies shaking. Aisha didn't strike, she controlled, neutralized, restrained. Her moves weren't wild, they were disciplined, beautiful, terrifyingly efficient. When Veronica tried to run, Aisha intercepted her path with quiet speed. "Running from consequences won't save you," she said softly. "But facing them might change you." Tears streamed down Veronica's cheeks, her tough facade dissolving in seconds. She fell to her knees, shaking uncontrollably, her voice cracking as she whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Aisha exhaled slowly, letting go of the tension she held. Sirens finally echoed in the distance. Someone in a nearby neighborhood must have seen the fire. Aisha didn't fear the police, she had nothing to hide. The bullies, however, looked like they had seen their lives flash before their eyes. But before the officers arrived, Aisha leaned down toward Veronica and said, "This ends tonight. The fear, the cruelty, the ego, it dies here. What you do after this, that's your choice." When the police arrived, they found a burning car, a terrified group of teenagers, and Aisha standing calm, strong, unhurt, her posture carrying the weight of someone who had faced nightmares far worse than a schoolyard gang. The officers listened, and the truth unraveled quickly. Footage from parking lot cameras confirmed everything. Veronica and her crew faced charges, counseling, and weeks of consequences. But the real change began inside them, sparked not by fear of the law, but by the moment Aisha stood from fire like a warrior reborn. The next week, Crestwood High buzzed with the story. Students whispered not with fear, but with awe. No one bullied again, at least not while Aisha walked the halls. She wasn't a queen, nor a celebrity, she was a protector, a silent storm, a lesson carved into the school's memory. And as she walked through the corridors, students glanced at her with admiration, respect, and gratitude. Aisha had not only survived the fire, she had turned it into a warning: never mistake quiet strength for weakness. At the end of the chapter, as the fictional narrator addresses the audience, the message rings clear: if you want more powerful stories like this, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep bringing you legends that inspire, empower, and thrill.